Hello brick sculptors and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris and I have an exciting new video for you today. We're going to talk about tents. I've been working on my new Lego city, which is very outdoor themed, as you probably know if you watch my videos, and so I decided I need to create some tents, and here's what I came up with. So this was my first design and I really like how this came out. I'll show you how this is built. There's a lot going on inside. Keep in mind that if you are going to build tents like this, it might be hard to fit multiple minifigures inside because of what is needed to construct the inside to get the outside to look good. So let me show you how this comes together, and I think you'll like this build. So first thing you do when I take this apart is I need to pop off the outside facades where the entrance is and where the back is. And that allows me to take the tent in half. Those two actually interlock it together. Now the two sides are made up of various tiles. I put these little jumpers on here because I thought they looked kind of like little vents or tie downs, so that they added some detail to the tent. But of course you can do just a smooth sided tent as well. I was a little limited in colors. You'll see some other builds here in a second, but I didn't have a ton of large tile. Now to do this, the larger the tile, the easier this will be. You can do it with smaller tile, but it'd be a little more difficult and a little more fragile. But you can also vary this however you want to look like the different panels of the tent. Now underneath the tile on this side, basically built this little structure here. It's 6 by 3 with these snot pieces on either side facing inward. And then I just lined up my tiles on the top here in whatever pattern I decide. Now the other side is not going to be symmetrical. It's going to be a little bit different. This one uses 2 different snot pieces. The middle is held together by these right down the center, and that's also what allows it to attach to the other side. And on the outsides, these are built very similar to over here. I actually used the bumper piece, but you could also use 2 of the 1x2 snot versions. And then just some plate here to make it a little bit more structurally sound. Now you'll notice on this side I have 4 studs and this side 3 because they're going to come together like that, and that's going to make your edge. And then you can just stick your tiles together just like the other one, just building it around those underlying pieces. So these 2 studs on top are what's going to attach the tent at the top. Just like that. And at this point, it's not super structurally sound. But once we put our ends on, it gets a lot stronger. The end piece here, I just used one of these wedge plates and covered it in tile. I didn't have the appropriate tile to completely fill this out, but actually I don't think it looks too bad with that little corner taken out. I'll show you a tent here in a second that has the thing fully filled out in the back. This just sticks on here, and because it's grabbing both these snot pieces, it's going to hold both sides together incredibly strong. So now the tent is getting really rigid. Same thing on this side, but I would also pay attention to make sure you're overlapping this portion right here with plate, just to give you that extra structural strength. And there's our edges. Now as far as attaching this to a base plate, the method I was using, and there's a few different ways you can do this, I just used one of these hinge plates. I put this in the middle of this 3x3. On some of the other ones, I put it a little bit higher and then put a plate underneath. I'll show you that in a second. But this allows this to come down, and if you're careful with it, you can kind of feel for the spot and get it to attach nicely to your plate. What do you think? I think it looks pretty good. Now obviously we can vary up size, shape, color, and different techniques, so let me show you a few different variations of this tent. Again, I was a little limited on color. I didn't have a ton of really large plate. I will be ordering some stuff for when I build these for my actual city, because I want more brightly colored tents. I want things that look like recreational campers, more so than military tents. You could do different colored panels. Here we've got kind of a cross pattern. I put these rounded pieces on here to look like the opening is kind of rolled up. The inside's basically the same, but this tent is a little bit smaller. This is a 7 long tent as opposed to an 8. And you can see on this one I didn't have that central piece to attach to, so I just attached the hinge a little bit higher and added a 1x2 plate in the bottom. On the back here, I was able to fully fill out this back. Using these triangle pieces makes it a lot easier to fill that out. But there are many different ways you can fill up that triangle. Another design here. This one's in dark tan. This is another 1x8, built essentially the same as this one here, but I have a little different front on it. I took these triangle pieces and I put them on some D-snot pieces, which made this have to change a little bit on the inside. And this allowed me to look like these are flaps that are opened up and kind of pinned open or tied open. And you can decide if you want one end open, two ends open, or no ends open. So there we have a nice little row of tents. So I also want to try and do something kind of next level with it. And I came up with this one here. So this is a yellow tent. I have some dark green borders on it. And these borders use these kind of sloped pieces that go at a 45-degree angle. They give it a really nice like billowing outward look, like it's fabric being rolled back. And then I just used some ropes here. These ropes just kind of came right across the top, put them down this channel, and just find an appropriate place to attach them to the base. And if they're not quite tight, you can grab the end and just kind of twist it a little bit until you get it taut. And looks pretty good. I know a lot of modern tents don't have ropes tying on the outside anymore. Most of it's done with a frame inside and then just staked on the corners. If you're doing a little more of an old-fashioned look, that could be the technique you want to use. Now, when I was building these, my wife came downstairs and she thought these were adorable. And she asked if I was going to do a dome-style tent, a more modern-style tent. And I've been dreading that question because I knew it was coming, if not from her, from you guys. The problem is it's a very, 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 very hard shape to make. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. And I played around with pieces and I didn't get anything that I really liked. And then I decided, wait a minute, I can make one. Kind of. Check this out. So here I used some flex tubing, and I kind of just made the frame of the dome-style tent, and I even got the guy here building it, while his wife is over here reading the instructions, and he's all angry. And you just kind of make it look half-constructed. I got the frame put together here. These are just Travis bricks. I picked these up in this lime green on Pick-a-Brick, having absolutely no use for them, and I knew eventually they would tell me what they want to be, and they did. They wanted to be a tent. So I just got the 4 flex tubes here coming out from the center. One's obviously in his hand still. The flex tubes on the bottom. I could use just standard bars for that, but I liked using the flex tube because it matched. And then I've got kind of the bunched up canopy over here waiting to be pulled over the top once it's constructed. And down inside we got kind of the bunched up tarp that's going to be pulled underneath it. So I thought that looked pretty cool. I'm probably going to incorporate that in my city just like that. A little bit of storytelling, you know, having a half-constructed tent and some frustrated campers. So that turned out pretty cool. If you want to see what it actually looks like, this is what the frame would look like fully put together. I wanted to play around with this and see if I could find a way to cover it. I know Lego has done cloth-covered tents in the past. I know they came out with some way back in the day of Extreme Team. They had a set that had one, and I know Lego Adventures had a black tent in one of the sets. I never owned either of those. But I know they're definitely out there. There's other ones in that too. But I wanted to see if I could actually cover this. Now what this is actually made out of is flex tubing. And I buy it like this. I buy it from Bevin's Bricks, fellow YouTuber. Daryl has a fantastic store, and he sells this flex tubing by the foot. You can get it in many different colors. I think he has 5 or 6 different colors. Green, brown, gray, black, and I think orange, maybe red also. And it's like $1 or $2 a foot. So it's not expensive enough where it have to worry about cutting it and making mistakes. Lego, you can get the exact same stuff that's official Lego, but it's expensive, it's hard to get long lengths, and I'm always afraid to cut it or damage it because of how expensive it is. So this stuff is great. It's completely Lego compatible, and it works really well. The colors aren't perfect to Lego, but they're pretty close. but it works really well, and you can pick that up on Bevin's Bricks website. I'll link that in the description. So anyway, I wanted to try to cover this and see what I could come up with. Here's an example. This is from a teepee that I had back in the day, where they did kind of this heavy canvasy fabric. So I thought I'd give that a try. I wasn't super successful with it, but I started with some paper. And I started just kind of making a mock-up of what I could use to bend over this. I made a little bit of a stencil, and then I eventually got to a four-sided piece. I tried to do some cloth. Got a couple different renditions here. It didn't work out the greatest. Now, I'm also not the greatest at working with this kind of stuff, but I didn't love how it came out. So I ended up resorting to just the paper. I'm definitely not going to use this in my city as it is right now, but it was fun to play with, and let me show you kind of how it turned out. So here's my final paper version, at least final for now. If you don't know this, it's a really handy tip. A standard hole punch is almost like a perfect fit for a 1x1 round stud. So that's what I did. It's just a standard hole punch. And then this will fit on here really well. It looks pretty good. It just looks very non-Lego to me, so that's why I'm not going to use it in my city as it is. But I can just snap these on all the way around the frame of this. And this is kind of cardstock. I actually cut up a manila file folder to make this. And cut a little door in it. That's a pretty cool little tent. But again, it definitely looks a little too homemade for me. If I figured out a cloth that worked better, one thing I did try, if I do the cloth over top, it gives it more structure. When the cloth is on it alone, it's just too flexible. And it doesn't really stay in place well, and it doesn't bend to the curves well. But cloth over paper might be the secret. Now this piece was definitely not designed to go over paper because it's not really big enough. But you can see how that kind of looks pretty good. But again, it still looks very non-Lego. But it'd be pretty cool if Lego made an official tent like this and made an actual cloth piece that would work with it. Because I think that would be a cool way to do a tent. Now, in all this playing with FlexTube, one thing kept coming to my mind, so I had to build it. Had to build a jungle gym. And I thought this turned out so cool. And the cool thing with these circles, it's one piece of FlexTube going all the way around for each of these circles. So you just kind of string them on there like beads, and then I just had the little pieces coming down to connect the layers. Put a couple kids on there. I'm definitely going to incorporate that in my new city, right next to my playground. This is one of my mini builds. If you haven't seen my mini builds, I'll link at the end here. I'll link a playlist for my mini builds. But I kept that one. I'm going to probably try to put these across the street from my school in the kind of the public park there. Well, I hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll do more just like this in the future, and we will see you next time.